thank you for tuning in to another episode of Family Case Files. I'm your host, B. I have my legal advisor here with me, Joanne Denison. And I've got a good friend here with us. I've already done an interview with him on the Red Pill Hardcore TV show. I will link the show below. But we're going to get into the legal aspect of what's going on. But quickly, let's do a recap about your situation, because you had a situation of basically domestic violence that wasn't domestic violence, that involved a gun, and the state wants to prosecute you.
Yes, sir. That's it, B.
So let's go ahead and get into that. Joanne, what should we be hearing from him in his synopsis here?
Well, let's just go through the charges. I assume that you're going to publish those someplace and provide a link. So that's the first place to start, so that people can look at the link and see what the police officer or the prosecutor wrote up. So when you're faced with a criminal charge, one of the things that was brought up is, what are your Miranda rights, okay? Now, Mr. Wallen, who is the subject, he's the defendant in this case, brought up the fact that either they didn't read him his Miranda rights, or they wouldn't tell him what his probable cause is. With respect to probable cause, they're supposed to tell you at the moment of the arrest what they're arresting you for and what the charges are. I don't know what the legal effect of not telling you is in Wisconsin. I'd have to look that up, because obviously my background is in civil law, it's not in criminal law. Now I have looked up for my various defendants who have been charged with contempt of court, all right? And they were taken in and arrested and arraigned and all that. And I have looked up the Miranda rights. Basically, the only thing that the Miranda rights get you is something called the fruit of the poison tree, all right? So from the time that the police officers warn you, any statement you make can be used against you, all right? Before that, that's fruit of the poison tree. So if you're blabbing about your case and you make statements which might not help your case, or they get you in a lot of trouble, your attorney, if they're doing their job, the defense attorney, and we know that public defenders don't do a very good job, no offense to them. They're paid very low wages and they are definitely overworked, but all it does is stop that fruit of the poison tree. So if you said the gun is over there and you weren't warned about your Miranda, that statement will be taken out, okay, cannot be considered. So it's better for the police officers to give everybody their Miranda rights right away, but they often don't do that. They want people to blab on and on and on. Just so you know, if the court's doing its job and your public defender is doing their job, those statements can be excluded later on, all right? The next thing, of course, is the arrest. The first thing you should do when you're faced with an issue, besides recording every possible thing that you can when you get arrested, before, during, and after, which you have the right to do. You have the right to record the state, the police officers at any time. That's well-established case law. You may have some laws against it in your state, but that is well-established U.S. Supreme Court case law, all right? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you actually are arrested. If the police officer directs you to go sit over there and don't move, if the police officer says, I want you to stay in the house, that is technically an arrest. Maybe you thought before that you had to have the gold and silver bracelets on your wrist. You don't. As long as a police officer directs you to go somewhere, stay somewhere, that is technically an arrest. So now you're under arrest. So then you have to see if they're going to charge you or not. Because if they don't charge you once you're under arrest and they have no probable cause, of course you can turn around and sue them for false imprisonment, false arrest, which, by the way, is the same cause of action or same tort. You don't plead that twice, you plead it once. And then you also get the 42 U.S.C. 1983. If nobody's heard of that, that is deprivation of your due process or civil rights, deprivation of law of your rights without due process of law. Okay, so in other words, you're arrested, it was a false arrest. And I can see that Mr. Wallen is listening to all of this. So we've had a good discussion of the basics of your Miranda rights when you're arrested, what you should say to the police officers, which is always politely, can I leave? Can I leave? And you can also ask them, am I under investigation? There is a sleeper, and you can't sit there and say, I'm not going to give you my ID. There is a sleeper U.S. Supreme Court case that says that you can get a hit up for something like failure to show ID or this disorderly conduct type stuff if you don't show them your ID and you do have it in your possession. I would imagine there's no case on it, but if you don't have it on your possession and you can't show it to them, they're just out of luck, okay? But apparently if they could prove you had it on your possession and you didn't turn it over, that may have hindered their investigation. There is a Supreme Court case that says you have to do that. That doesn't mean I personally agree with it. I think all three of us sitting here probably don't agree with that, right? Why should we have to show the police our ID? I don't think we have to do that. Maybe if we're driving.
Don't they have to suspect you of a crime first?
No. No, actually, it can be either a crime was committed and they're investigating, or there is probable cause. All right, once there's probable cause, they don't even have to ask you for your ID because they just go through all your stuff. You know, that's over. You know, they can pat you down, you know, they can go through your purse, they can do whatever they want. If you're in a car, they can search that area, but they cannot search locked compartments. So, and never, ever, of course, you know, never, ever consent to a search when you're pulled over. Always say, I am going to grant you permission to do this, but it's over my objection. Always say, I am objecting to it for the record, okay? If you don't object for the record, later on your attorney is not going to be able to help you. So, and this is true if you're pulled over for a DOI and the police officer says, I want to look in your eyes. You can say, you can look in my eyes, officer, but it's over my objection. I don't feel you have that right. They can't make you walk a line. They can't make you do a solo, I don't know, waltz, jump, or whatever they want you to do. They can't make you do anything when you're suspected of being intoxicated. So you can just say, okay, I'll try to do it, but it's over my objection, because technically they can't do it. So do we have all that straight about what you do during arrest?
Yes.
Mr. Wallen has a problem here. I am looking at his police report. I know you're going to put that up. And I also wanted to go over, since we are being completely misinformed by a certain president of ours as to what you can do and what you can't do as a criminal suspect, I want to go over this again. If you are under investigation, if you are going to be arrested, okay, the police will let you know that sometimes, okay? Once they let you know that, now you are not allowed to talk about the victims. You are not allowed to go out there and say, I didn't do anything and it's a lie. You are not allowed to make disparaging remarks about the police and the police officers. That better be true. And no, go and talk to the witnesses. So no victim talking, no witness tampering. Now, typically at your arraignment, or very shortly after that, a protective order will be issued against your contacting the witnesses or the victim. So now you're saying, how do I prove I didn't do this? Well, very easy. You have a process that's called discovery, all right? And in discovery, you or your attorney will send out a set of questions called interrogatories, and the witnesses or the victims have to answer them, all right? That's not witness tampering. That is not obstruction of justice. That is the legal due process, excuse me, where you can preserve your rights to prove your case at trial. In the past, I have sent out, since most attorneys are really lazy, I have sent out interrogatories, which never were answered, okay? I have sent out subpoenas for questions. I've sent out requests for a deposition, and the witnesses and the victim don't show up. Now, these cases were pretty bogus cases. And I did use that at trial to explain to the jury, you know, I got the person on the witness stand, I subpoenaed them for trial, and if they weren't subpoenaed for trial, we read it into the record that they were sent to subpoena and they never showed up. Okay, so that makes the state's case look really, really bad. Okay, and that does create your reasonable doubt so you can get out of it. Of course, everybody's going to get railroaded, I think we all know that, into waiving your rights and copying a plea, and that is something you're just going to have to figure out yourself, because you're going to have to get a good attorney to go in there and do the whole spiel before the jury. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. I'm glad that you served. we have great faith in your ability to do your job, and then you've got to get into all the holes in the case. And remind the jury, remember, one reasonable doubt, and you must acquit my client, all right? So if you can get that good attorney, if you can get that good public defender, that's absolutely wonderful. But at the outset, we're going to have to be careful here tonight. We will go over the charges, and I think Mr. Wallen will say that's true or that's not true. But we're going to do it without really talking about the witnesses or the alleged victim in this, which apparently is a soon-to-be ex-wife. They're in the process of divorce, and I guess a dispute arose. One of the things I was going to ask you, Mr. Wallen, when the dispute arose, who called the police? Did the neighbors call the police, or you or your wife?
I called the police.
All right, and you did that because you were afraid that your wife was going to harm herself. Let's go into the facts of the case. I'm just going to do these real quick. A dispute broke out. Was your wife on any medications at the time, to your knowledge?
Yeah, she was on antidepressants at least, and maybe anti-anxiety meds.
All right. So as far as you're aware, she was taking some psychotropic medications.
Yes, she was also taking, I think, an anti-anxiety and
Do you know the names
marijuana.
of the medications? Do you know the names of the medications?
I want to say Klonopin or something. I don't know. It was.
Yes, that will make you crazy. Guaranteed, make you crazy. What else?
It was. I want to say Zoloft was one too.
That's another one too.
Yeah, I think it
Those
was
are really
those
dangerous
two.
medications, and the state should be trained in how to handle people. I think I just ran across an article. I probably put it on my blog, but the police need to be better trained in how to handle people who have mental illness and who are taking these dangerous medications. And then clearly they're not, from what happened
Well,
to you.
I'm glad you actually bring that up, because I've heard situations like this where mental health officers are sent to the scene. I've never heard of that before until someone told me that. Do such things exist?
I have an article on it, and I'd be glad to put it up on my blog, and you can cross-post. But apparently what they do is about 8 hours of mental health training in Chicago with every officer, but what they're saying is they really need 40 hours. They need a solid week of how to deal with the mentally ill, people who are upset, people who really aren't your dangerous criminal. They're just having problems with their medications, with their therapy, whatever else is going on. And we have to break this cycle of people going to psych hospitals, the jail, then back home, falling off their medications, getting the wrong medications, and then again, they're either getting called in on psych hold or they're in jails. I think Cook County Sheriff Dart also has, just to help you out, Mr. Wallen, on your case quest here,
Right.
he has a whole article on how he believes 50% of the people currently in Cook County Jail, of course, we have like the largest jail in the Midwest, I believe. Some 40,000 people are in there at any given time. I don't know what it is. It's incredible, the numbers.
It's big. Yeah.
And he said he really needs to do, he doesn't want these people in his jail. They don't fit well in his jail. And he wants to do something to reduce holding these people. Now, your wife didn't get arrested, correct?
She was detained and then taken to a mental health facility. I had to take her like a week or two prior by force to a mental health facility for a similar situation, but she was verbally threatening.
I'm so sorry.
I feel bad about that. Yeah. I
do
really
too.
tried hard.
Now, can something like this be taken into account in his current situation, just because there's that history of that, or that's just hearsay or testimony?
Here's the thing. He can say pretty much anything he wants as long as it's on point during the trial. So certainly his lawyer should get a hold of her to the extent he can, get a hold of her mental health records and also get a hold of her prescriptions. So if you have that evidence, Mr. Wallen, make sure it's not destroyed. You may have to get a court order to get that information, but certainly it goes to the disturbance that was caused. Now the question is, obviously you're claiming that he was the one that was screaming and yelling. Did you do any screaming and yelling? Because in these situations where you've got domestic violence, my advice to everybody is record everything. Turn on that phone and record. Generally, you're going to see everything stop at that point, okay? Because nobody wants to be recorded being a criminal, right? But the question is, when you got into an altercation and when this became heated, did you record some or all of it?
I didn't record any of it. I did not know she would take things so far.
I understand.
But I guess that's medication for you. So.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that you've got a couple of things actually going in your favor. The fact that she did receive treatment at a mental health facility soon after. That now, were you doing any yelling and screaming to escalate the situation, or were you trying to de-escalate at every turn?
I spoke very calmly and in a level voice the whole time. Now, when she did begin to hit me and leave marks, I did react with as repressed humanity as I could. I did call her a few names that were it was not good to do that.
You were not proud of it. We're going to skip over that,
yeah,
okay? Because obviously it was a heat of the situation, but you didn't physically harm her, correct?
God, no. No, I would never hit my wife. No, I would never. I mean,
the only thing you're really charged with is disorderly conduct, and you are charged with domestic abuse, but it looks like both parties participated in some kind of an altercation, but if you didn't hit her, you don't really have anything there, I don't think.
I would never hit her.
I would
never hit my wife.
All right, well, that's important, and you have to let your public defender know. Do you have a public defender yet?
I do have a public defender.
Have you met with him to talk about your case?
I have met with him.
Good. And is he going to start working on your case?
He is working on the case as we speak.
Good. Well, then that's the most important thing. And he knows that you may or might do a video on this, correct?
He is aware I am talking to media. And I did tell him that I was recording for media.
All right. So maybe the best thing to do until his case is over is actually get this recording to his public defender and have him review it first. And if there's any portions that need to be edited out, those should be edited out. I really don't want to get anybody in trouble, okay? And we're not going to do a President Trump who gets out there and says, oh, he's in an investigation, and he's just like, this person's a liar, this person's a jerk, dismiss my investigation. Those are clearly witness tampering and obstruction of justice, and I don't want anybody to get in trouble for that.
Well, let me ask you about recording, because from what I've been told, there have been these court dates set, these secret meetings. Now, this is a theme on this show, but Alex, can you go into detail about that? Because you were told you couldn't even record anything or having trouble getting transcripts, or what was going on?
I couldn't. I've been given a lot of conflicting information on purpose. There have been several attempts to try to get me to sign over my rights in one way or another. One of the incidents in particular, I don't know how else to describe it besides it was intimidating and loud, and I just don't feel that I should admit to things that are not true. And I don't think that, and things were said that indicate to me that there's a lot more going on than I could imagine, really, by myself. Maybe I'm naive because I'm not, in court regularly. But the times we live in and my situation and my experiences have led me to want to, or be prompted to, reach out a little bit more for some help, because the situation's getting a little scary. I have been meeting in a courtroom that is empty, and I am always the last person there, or
Yes,
the only
we know
person
that.
there. And specifically, it is a courtroom separated from the main two courtrooms. And when it is mentioned, those involved do not talk about it with lightheartedly. They are like, well, you're making a choice to stand up for yourself, and that has consequences. And it's like,
Who told you that?
well, they indicate it with their body language and behavior. Now, specifically, when things have been offered to me during these hearings or sessions, deals that, like, I have tried to just walk away and move on with my life, but there is intention, from what I can tell, for punishment, it seems like, and I don't understand that. It just doesn't seem like justice at all. And I think a time comes when somebody has to defend themselves from persecution.
I agree. And Alex, I know that really, even if, like, Joanne, if he's convicted, I mean, it's a Class B misdemeanor, like you said. He's not going to spend more than a couple months in jail, typically, if he's convicted, or something like that. To that
Well,
effect.
let's hope he gets a good attorney and gets off. I don't even want to go down that road.
But
I'm at this point, I'm trying to figure out what he's talking about. Is
They
he talking
have
about
mentioned-
an actual courtroom with
There
an
have
actual
been-
proceeding?
There have been mentions of, they have been trying to figure out if I'm going to get a lawyer. Specifically, they have mentioned, like, and I don't know why, they've mentioned cost of, like, how much are you going to spend on a lawyer? And they've tried to offer me various things. They said, well, you can sign over your rights, but you have to admit that what's going on here is legal.
Yeah, you wanna do that.
Well, Joanne, to me, it
There
sounds
are,
trying to see if he can defend himself. If they
Yeah.
can get away with something here.
they're trying to get away with something.
But the reason why I'm really having you on the show, I mean, of course, you're an innocent man and you got to defend yourself. But, well, okay, let me start by asking you, the gun, is that used as evidence in this trial? Is that a factor?
It has not been mentioned yet.
Because I'm thinking to myself, in this scenario, and they're not wanting to drop it, and I'll go ahead and say it, even if Alex can't say it, I know what's going on. I've heard the story, and, with her trying to kill herself with this gun, him wrangling the gun away, I mean, she has already talked to the defense lawyer and corroborating the same story. She has already told these people that Alex is innocent and everything he said is true. But yet they still don't want to drop it. So to me, it seems as though if they bring the gun into this scenario, they're trying to boost possibly stats, gun conviction, crime stats, or whatever. And I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm trying to to get the word out if that is in fact the case. I hope it's not the case, because I know
I
the
can't
government
think
is
of
very
any other.
The question would be, are you talking to the prosecutor? The prosecutor is in charge of the charges and
No,
all the
I am
crimes that
the
are brought.
prosecutor.
So the prosecutor should be talking to the public defender, and you, Mr. Wallen, should have a copy of the state's file, you should have a copy of the court file, and you should have a copy of all transcripts. So make sure your lawyer is getting you transcripts, all right? And
Okay.
make sure that they're not making secret deals in secret rooms. At
They
this point, you're pleading not guilty. That's as far
Right.
as you are. And then
Yeah.
your attorney should be sending out something that's called discovery. All right, so get on your attorney to send out discovery. That has nothing to do with the prosecutor trying to make some kind of re-election claims. We're just talking about your case right here, right now. And you're basically charged with a Class B misdemeanor. I don't see that being a horrendous charge from the state in order to show that they're stopping gun violence by being ultra strict about what they charge people with. That doesn't seem to be the case. How was your judge? Did you actually meet your judge? Does he or she seem reasonable?
My experience with him is that he does not want to get involved. Specifically, he was very okay during the first session. I wanted to move on with my life. I was working 3 jobs. I was, living 2,000 miles away, trying to get divorced, and the judge, they offered me a plea deal to just accept the charges and move on, and everybody thought that was great, but the prosecutor said, no, this man needs jail time. And so what ended up happening was
killing herself, got her into treatment, but you need jail time. I think that prosecutor needs his head examined.
Probably.
I think if you got a good attorney, you'd slay the prosecutor in front of a jury. I think you would do fine. So you get the
that's the advice I gave him too, is doing a jury trial, because all the evidence is in Alex's favor at this point. I still think that the prosecutor's pushing for those stats. Now,
I think the first thing you got to do is go get the prosecutor's file, the police report. He's got a lot of work to do. And once you get all that together, maybe the prosecutor will either just, maybe he'll get it down to some lower charge, but you don't want domestic battery on your record. And, maybe he'll drop it down to disorderly conduct, and nobody cares about that, and a $50 fine. That would be reasonable. But you know what, the DV but then again, this might be a good case to take to the jury, because
they have been trying. Sorry to interrupt.
I'll tell you what, you might be able to sue those drug companies for this.
They have.
That's the other place I was going to go.
That's
absolutely.
Right. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the prosecutor's in the Clonopin and whatever, those crazy drug manufacturers' pocket. Did you check where he gets his campaign funds from? I'd like to know. Now, these are things that we can talk about without getting into trouble, which is, does the prosecutor have bias? Is he accepting campaign donations from the drug companies? These are factual inquiries, okay? It's not like Trump going around saying, you guys are all scum and this is a witch hunt and blah. We're not doing that. We are looking at, hard facts and hard evidence to help you for your trial. If you're going to have a trial, I don't know.
The 21st is supposedly the day that we will set for the trial, or it is the trial. I have heard so much BS, though. It's really hard to, specifically, they've also very much wanted to just bring it down to an ordinance, but the prosecutor even against what seems like the judge's wishes and my public defender's wishes, push for much more. And at this point, it's either, well, you can accept the charges and go to jail, or accept the charges and go to jail and sign your rights away. And it's like, well, if I have, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I might as well just go to court and, go to trial, because I mean, I have nothing to lose in this situation, and the ball is in the prosecutor's court, and I'm not sure why they're pushing so hard. I could guess. I mean, there's like really, I mean, who knows why people do things for personal gain at the expense of other people. I mean, there's an infinite number of reasons, but from what I am seeing, there is bias. There is consistent, proactive bias towards either my situation or myself, and I cannot determine. I just at this point, the only thing I can determine is that I need to defend myself. And
well, can we say names? Can we say the prosecutor's name, the judge's name, or would that be
I don't really have a problem with that. I don't think that, you know, I have the complaint in front of me, and
because I like to do a little investigation.
It's public knowledge. The question is, what is his public defender going to do for him? What is this public defender going to do? And definitely the first part I would start at is the discovery. And maybe you've got a deposition to take care of your soon-to-be ex-wife, and definitely try and get your divorce over. That's definitely one of the things that will help you, okay? And maybe your public defender will want to argue that the state of Wisconsin caused the divorce. That would be kind of interesting during a jury trial.
Yeah, it has been so hard on the both of us. Specifically, my wife has a lot more money than I do.
All right.
And they are also quite, I think, nervous of the money. They've mentioned, the prosecuting bench has mentioned, not in court, but behind closed doors, so to speak. They have mentioned quite a bit that is, I think, quite illegal. And they have asked me questions that I did not feel comfortable asking or answering.
Do you have a recording of all that?
I don't. I just have. They basically said, we'll give you an ordinance if you take anger management classes. Was one of these deals they offered, and I went in to do this, and he did not want me to sign the papers unless I admitted certain things. One of those things was, and this is I guess an employee that's working with the DA, but they're not supposed to be. His words, not mine. He mentioned, he was asking questions like, how much are you going to spend on a lawyer? Like, do you agree on the...
business. It's absolutely
yeah, it really isn't. It is not his business.
Or you can just tell him I got $500,000. How about that? Does that make you happy?
I could say that. I don't, you know, I'm a very...
Giuliani is right now coming in to work on my case, okay? Because Trump just fired him. That'd be funny, too. You don't have to answer these questions.
So you got the 18s.
Well, what was...
the real question is, why isn't your public defender stopping him from asking these questions?
Specifically, when I said, well, these are very obviously illegal, he got very upset and he began to yell and get threatening.
Again, record. Is there some reason why you can't turn on your cell phone and push the record button?
I did not expect the court to get so desperate. Is that a word? For my blood.
I think obnoxious and annoying is a better word for it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I think Mr. V will tell you, and it is my position as a lawyer, you record everything.
More.
So if you don't have all call recorder on your phone and voice recorder on your phone, when we get off of this is going to be your first homework assignment. Okay. Record everything. If you can take your phone into court, get it into court. If you can't take your phone into court, Get one of those tie clip recorders, bring it in and record these people. I can't tell you how many complaints I have filed after I have found court personnel and all kinds of people pulling sleazy stuff. It's rampant. So if you think that you're being singled out on sleazy garbage over a basic Class B misdemeanor complaint, no, they do it all the time. And the prosecutor is always looking for more admissions and more crap to throw more charges at you because that's what they get paid for. Okay? So record. Promise me you're going to do that, okay?
I will definitely get transcripts. And as far as recording in court, can I just whip out a phone and do that, or do I?
No, they're going to get a little testy about it. We're not to that point except for in federal court. Federal court, they don't care if you got your laptop, your tablet, whatever you're doing with your phone. They really don't care because they know better because it is federal court. But in these little corrupt state courts, the best thing to do is take a binder, put your phone in it, turn it on, and tell the judge you have to stand at the bar right in front of his desk to talk about your case. And then you can easily record everything because you're a little hard of hearing. That's what we have been doing. So record. There are transcripts that change, right, Mr. V? All the time.
Absolutely.
Make sure there is a court reporter. If the court reporter is changing the transcripts, bring your own court reporter. You have a constitutional right to hire and bring your own court reporter. Ask that court reporter if she's drinking buddies with the judge or with the state's attorneys, okay, before you hire her.
Right.
All right, so any more questions?
We should actually probably make this a part one and just follow the story because
I think
I
so
really
too.
want to do a little digging on the prosecutor, and if this has anything to do with drug companies or gun stats, I'm gonna go.
I'd like to know, is this gun stats drug companies? And you know what? Your public defender gets to ask those questions to the state. They get to ask those questions and see if that gets them to drop your case. Because you may get lucky if you ask the right questions and let them know you're going to take your ex-wife's deposition. She's going to admit there was a fight and you got her into treatment. They may drop it at that point. You don't know when they're going to drop it. But unless they're going to give you a slap on the wrist, I don't know what that would be, but and a $50 fine, I would keep on going on this and maybe take some depositions. You have the right to do that, okay?
Okay.
You have the right to take depositions to the correct legal process, okay? You can't call up your witness. You can't call up your victim. You should not be talking to your wife anymore. I assume that you stopped talking to her, right?
Right. Now, there was...
No more text, no more emails with her. Stop it.
Okay.
All right?
Sure.
You want to talk to your wife, it's called a deposition, and it's all until the charges are dropped. You have to stay out of that house, stay away from her, and you talk to her. It's a deposition or a subpoena with interrogatories and requests for documents attached to it. Get your public defender to do that. You may find the case going away.
The medical records and such as well, correct?
Yeah, and get all your transcripts. Get on those court reporters, tell them you want the transcripts and you want them right away and you want the state to pay for them.
Okay. Yep. The state will pay for them.
I spoke with Alex earlier and was explaining being indigent, and the paperwork for that so he can get everything free.
You don't really need a fee waiver from what I can tell, like in our local circuit courts where you're charged with a crime. Sometimes there might be a little bit of paperwork, but somehow we get the transcripts. They fill out some form or something, that goes to the court reporter, and then she does the transcripts and charges the county, okay? So that shouldn't be an issue. Are you indigent, Mr. Wallen? Do you not have a job, car, house, money?
No, I have a job. I mean, I've lost everything. I'm
sorry.
No, it's okay. I've had to keep up with the corruption by working 3 jobs and then losing them because I just cannot keep affording plane tickets and bus tickets, which was really hard.
It's hard for all of us. I mean, I have no money. I'm on a shoestring. V will tell you, like, I'd like a new computer. I'd like some recording equipment. I'd like a lot of things. I'm 3 months behind in rent. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
But if you are making about $15,000-$16,000 or less, you do qualify to get everything for free, including your.
I am making much less than that. Yeah, I am working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should be getting your transcripts for free. Your public defender shouldn't be charging you the whole 9 yards. Now, I heard something, I don't know if you've heard this, Bea, but when the case is over, they're actually, if they get a conviction or they don't get a conviction, they're having the public defenders bill the indigent person for like $75 an hour for legal services. I heard that's completely unconstitutional. That's crazy stuff.
I've heard all sorts of outrageous things.
Right, outrageous
I've
things.
heard lawyers taking down payments for their services and then never showing up. I've heard.
Oh, well, that
heard
happens
reports.
all the time. I mean, never pay them a ton of money up front because you never know where that one's going to go.
Right.
And then when you do fire them, they throw you under the bus, right? I got so many cases, so many bar complaints on that one. Yep, we all know that one. Okay. So, Mr. Wallen, I think you've got a lot of homework to do here, but you'll get through it.
Absolutely. Alex,
I'm sorry this happened.
brother, we're going to follow your story.
Okay.
But for right now, we'll let this be part one of Alex's story. So this has been another episode of Family Case Files. I'm host B, my legal advisor, Joanne Denison, and Alex, we'll all be back. Part two.